Everyone has an opinion. And they all think they're the smartest person in the room.
Prior to the Cowboys, and it got down to Xavier McKinney to help that secondary, bolster that secondary, bring a leadership, a level of leadership that McKinney can to that deep patrol, and really to that overall defense. He's a great kid.
No footwork there. He doesn't even like that.
Off platform,
yes,
all the time.
And
right? That's
these other kids, and I believe Deshaun Watson with the Houston Texans is in the best situation.
At the end of the day, I gotta trust my instincts.
I don't believe in the system, the passing system that they have in the Big 12. Guys have not been successful with that transition to the NFL.
One pick can ruin this city's dreams.
The Cleveland Browns select Baker Mayfield.
Wow.
The Denver Broncos select Von Miller, linebacker, Texas A&M. The Cleveland Browns select Johnny Manziel, quarterback, Texas A&M.
Fans loving you one day, next day calling for your job.
How disappointed are you that you will not be a 49er?
Not as disappointed as the 49ers will be that they didn't draft me.
With the first choice in the 2004 NFL Draft, the San Diego Chargers select Eli Manning, cornerback, Mississippi.
If it feels right, probably is.
Welcome back to Pigskin Podcast. I'm Tyler Madison, the primary host. Just want to let you know we're without Abraham Gonzalez today due to the fact that he lives in Texas and I live in Oklahoma. COVID-19 says we're not allowed to join. First of all, I wanted to apologize about the lack of video content that has been put out, but we're going to try to get some entertaining videos out during this pandemic, and this one especially with the NFL mock draft. The NFL draft is a series of picks take place in April 1 through 32 for 7 rounds. The first pick is the worst team. The 32nd pick is the best team. I think this is going to be a really good video, and I disagreed with a lot of the mock drafts that have been put out by analysts already, so I figured I'd go ahead and make my own to predict how the picks are going to go and everything like that. With the first pick we have the Cincinnati Bengals picking first. They didn't have that great of a season. They really struggled late. Early on, Andy Dalton was one of the highest passing leaders throughout the league. Things just fell apart. They weren't able to continue. In about week 6, it was already tank for Tua. They were in tank for Tua mode, but I don't think they're going to get Tua here. But I think they're going to get a better quarterback, in fact, to replace Andy Dalton, backup Andy Dalton, whatever. Joe Burrow out of LSU. He's a great quarterback. For those of you that know his story, he went to Ohio State, didn't get the job, transferred to LSU, wins the national championship, and now he's probably going to be the overall pick in the NFL draft. I think he's a great pick. Up next, we have the Washington Redskins. They have the second pick. The only moves they made really were hiring Ron Rivera and picking up Kyle Allen. But here I think they're going to flip the ball to the opposite side and get a pretty good defensive player named Chase Young. Chase Young had a phenomenal season. He got closer and closer to the Heisman Trophy towards the end of the season, but he fell short to the number 1 pick, Joe Burrow. But I think it's a good pick for the Redskins here, and I think he's a great player. Next pick, we have the Detroit Lions. The Detroit Lions didn't surprise me at all. They do the same thing every year. They have a good game against the Packers, a few good games against other divisional opponents like the Bears and the Vikings. They play good on Thanksgiving, and that's about it. I think right here they're going to get a defensive guy out of Ohio State also named Jeff Okudah. He's a corner. He's 6'1", about 190. Not that big for an NFL player, but as we see this new age of corners, you don't have to be big. You just have to be fast to play the field well, and he can definitely do that. Next, we have the New York Giants. The New York Giants are relying on this young generation of Daniel Jones, Sterling Shepard, Saquon Barkley, and this next pick. And I think that it's definitely a good decision. They're great players. They're reliable guys, especially this guy right here from Clemson. We have Isaiah Simmons. He's a linebacker. He's got good size to him, as you can see in this picture. He was a big problem for Joe Burrow and that LSU offensive line in the NFL and in the national championship. And he's a great defensive player, and I think that it's a great pickup for the Giants if they can get him. Next, we have the Miami Dolphins. In a lot of mock drafts, this is where I disagree with them. The first 4 picks are kind of the same, but this is where I disagree with them. the Miami Dolphins, they started out really bad. Everyone thought 0-16, but they did pick it up a little bit. I think they're going to pick up a quarterback here, but not the quarterback everybody thinks. I think they're going to pick up Justin Herbert out of Oregon. At 6'6", 236, he is definitely among a rare class of quarterbacks because he is extremely tall for a quarterback, which gives him a huge advantage. Here is where I think that they're going to pick up the quarterback that everyone likes, the Los Angeles Chargers. Everyone had a different quarterback at number 5, and instead of this one, I think the Los Angeles Chargers are going to go ahead and get the quarterback from Bama that I think should have returned for his best interest, but we're going to go ahead and pick him with the Chargers. We have Tua Tagovailoa. He is a pretty good quarterback. He is from Alabama, but he has not completed a full season. I don't think he's reliable, but I think if he would have returned for a full season, he would have fallen even lower in next year's NFL draft. Looking for a quarterback, so this might be a good pickup, but I think they do need to look out for their other interests if they want to get a guy that's going to be there for a few years. I don't know if Tua is the guy that they need to get, but he's definitely someone to put in that spot. It's better than Fitzpatrick. Next, we have the Panthers. The Panthers have made a lot of changes. You signed Christian McCaffrey to a 4-year extension. You get rid of Cam Newton, Kyle Allen, Luke Kuechly retires, Ron Rivera gets fired, but you hire Matt Rule. I think they made a lot of good changes for the program. They also hired Teddy Bridgewater as a quarterback. And I think they're going to flip the ball and get a defensive guy here out of the SEC, Derek Brown from Auburn. He's a phenomenal defensive player. He had a really good game against Alabama, gave Tua some pressure, and made him get out of the pocket a little bit, which is how you disrupt a quarterback. And I think it's a good pickup for the Panthers. Next, we have the Arizona Cardinals. The Arizona Cardinals kind of surprised me a little bit. They obviously pick number 8. They didn't have too great of a season, but if you watch their in-game play, they really played phenomenal. And now adding on DeAndre Hopkins, they can be a real threat to the NFC West, which kind of scares me. And this guy can just help that. Javon Kinlaw, he's from South Carolina. He had a really good game against Georgia, which is why they end up stopping the top 10 SEC team of Georgia. And I think he can be a great pickup for the Cardinals, and I'm scared if he's in the NFC West. Next, we have the Jacksonville Jaguars. They're not really looking to replace anybody, but just get better. They lost Jalen Ramsey to a trade, and then they lost Nick Foles due to releasing him. So they didn't really get anything back out of that except for a trade later on in the first round. I think they're going to pick up a receiver right here by the name of Jerry Jeudy. He's out of Alabama. He's a great receiver. He's just above 6 foot, and he's, for a height and weight, he's not that big. But like I said, this new generation of receivers and corners and players in general is not that big, but they use the best of their ability, and I think it's a good pickup. Here we have the Cleveland Browns at pick number 10. They kind of put all their eggs in one basket of this young generation, just like the Giants did. Odell Beckham Jr., Nick Chubb, Baker Mayfield, Myles Garrett, Greedy Williams. I think right here they're going to get a guy to protect their prized possession of Baker Mayfield and just try to keep him in the pocket rather than let him scramble, because that's when he makes some dumb decisions. I think right here you pick up Andrew Thomas out of Georgia. He's a great alignment. He protected Jake Fromm pretty good. The only problem I have with Andrew Thomas here is he had poor blocking in the South Carolina game, and in that South Carolina game we've seen a lot of problems throughout the Georgia team in general, but much more the defense. They didn't have many problems offensively, but the defense definitely struggled, and I think they need to fix it up a little bit. Next, we have the New York Jets, who did not surprise anybody by being an early pick. This is their thing. The New York City just sucks at sports, ultimately. I think right here they're going to pick up a guy to back up Sam Darnold. It's not a common decision, but I think it will happen. He goes by Jordan Love. He's coming from Utah State, not a big-time school, but he is severely underrated among quarterbacks, and I think he's a great pickup here. Many mock drafts had him picking another position, but I think you need to back up Sam Darnold just in case he does get mono again. So I think it's a good pickup here. Next, we have the not the Oakland Raiders anymore. They are the Las Vegas Raiders. They decided to pack their bags and leave from California and go to Sin City where they can make some money. I think this is a great decision by the NFL and by the organization. It's going to get them some more money. It's going to get good and bad publicity. And I would imagine that the Raiders are, from now on, going to be favored by Caesar's Palace as a little bit of home field advantage for the Raiders. Getting Marcus Mariota now, I think they are really going to step up and be better than a lot of people think they are. And here's a target for him to throw to. We call him Henry Ruggs. He's a great receiver at 5'11", 188. He could be a high school receiver by his size, but he has world-class talent, so it doesn't matter. His cuts are sharp. He's always in the end zone. And he has a really cool story with one of his friends getting him into football instead of basketball. And if you have any time, look that up. But yeah, next pick, we have the San Francisco 49ers, the Super Bowl runner-ups. Came from the second pick the year before, and so they had a really good transformation year. I don't think they have too much to replace. They lost Emmanuel Sanders. They lost DeForest Buckner. But outside of that, really, they kept everything the same. They had a phenomenal year, like I said. I think right here they're going to go ahead and replace Emmanuel Sanders with a guy that I think is just a little bit better. And he comes from the Big 12. He goes by the name of CeeDee Lamb. A lot of corners see the back of his head because he's already passed him when the quarterback throws the ball. He is a fast guy. He's physical. His physical toughness is among the best. And I think he's a great pickup. And the 49ers should definitely use their pick to pick this guy if he is still available. I think it's a great decision for the 49ers front office. Next, we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who hired probably the best quarterback of all time. And that's just about it. They really made a lot of people turn their heads by picking up Tom Brady. I think they're definitely respected more now. And they made the NFC South a little bit more competitive, especially with the Saints still being as good as they are. The Panthers are stepping up now, and the Falcons, we'll talk about that later, but the Falcons are definitely making moves to try to be the best. I think right here they're going to use their pick to hide their money. Tom Brady, this guy is Mekhi Becton. He's from Louisville. He's a big guy, 6'7", just over 350 pounds. He definitely will stand out. And as I watched his highlights, I noticed that you didn't even have to look at the number or who was highlighted or whatever to notice who Mekhi Becton is. He would just blow down the guys in front of him, and it was a mismatch nearly every time. Obviously, Louisville didn't have that great of a year, but he was definitely a contributor to their success, and I think he's going to help them out. Next, we have the Denver Broncos. Denver Broncos decided to put their trust in a young guy instead of a washed-up quarterback that goes by the name of Joe Flacco. I think Drew Lock is definitely the better decision. I think he deserved the starting spot even early on. And right here, they're going to go ahead and pick up a guy to give Drew Lock a target. And he's a pretty good wide receiver. He's from LSU, which is a national championship team, and he's also from the SEC, being from LSU. And we know the SEC likes to produce really good skill guys. This guy, he is a phenomenal receiver, and he goes by the name of Justin Jefferson. As you can see, he's holding up the number 4 there, which is how many touchdowns he got in a single game in the Peach Bowl against Oklahoma. As an Oklahoma fan, I can say that I remember this guy vividly. He gave the defense a lot of trouble, and I think that's going to continue, especially if the Broncos can pick him up here. And Drew Lock doesn't have many targets besides Fant and Sutton down there in Denver. So I think this would definitely be a great pickup if he can get that. So, yeah, I think that the Broncos are going to be a lot better, and they're going to be able to compete with the Chiefs in that really tough division. So, yeah, I think they're going to use that to get that guy. Next, we have the Atlanta Falcons. They picked up Todd Gurley. They got some new uniforms. They're back now. I think Julio Jones still has a lot left in him. I think the Falcons could be a contender for the NFC South title. But I think they're going to have to make some moves, definitely. They did not have that great of a year last year, even though they were not that far from the playoffs. And I think they're going to pick up a guy here on the defensive side of the ball. He's from the SEC. He's a big-time corner. His name's C.J. Henderson. As you can see, he's not that big, but a lot of corners that are rising up into this new generation are not that big, but they definitely use their size to the best of their ability. The thing that makes C.J. Henderson different is he plays the field probably the best as anybody can. There's times where he'll move from the right side of the field to the left side of the field instantly. Next, we have the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas Cowboys kind of shocked me. They fired Jason Garrett, thought all their problems would go away, and now they got even more problems. Half their roster's on the Las Vegas Raiders now. They lost their veteran, Jason Witten. Ezekiel Elliott and Dak Prescott are partying up during the COVID-19 pandemic, and so now they got in trouble. Mike McCarthy sent back going, what did I just step into? And Jerry Jones thinks that he has everything under control when he actually has nothing under control, but that's all I have to say about the Cowboys. I think they're going to pick up a guy here from the defensive side of the ball, also from that LSU National Championship team, Grant Delpit. He's a great safety, and I think he could definitely get something going on that defensive side of the ball for the Cowboys, as they really have nothing at this point. And he could definitely compete in the NFC East. Next, we have the second pick for the Miami Dolphins in this first round. We will see that they have a lot of picks in this draft and in the first round overall. I think they're going to use this pick. They used their first pick in the first round to get a quarterback, and this pick they're going to use to get a defensive player, also from the LSU National Championship team. Say hello to Patrick Queen. Patrick Queen is a great linebacker. He uses his size to the best that he can. A lot of the videos that I watched, he gave Jalen Hurts some big time trouble because they knew how to stop Jalen Hurts. They had some great coaching over there, but the players make him stand out even more. I think it's a great pickup here if they can get him. Next, we have the second pick for the Las Vegas Raiders in this first round. Like I said, I think the Raiders use their first pick to get Henry Ruggs III to give Marcus Mariota someone to throw to. This time, I think they're going to use their pick to pick up a defensive guy. He's not that big either, but we've seen as these corners, they don't have to be 6'5". This guy is just around 6 foot, just around 200 pounds, pretty average. Jalen Johnson from Utah, he's a great corner. Utah had some pretty good success this year, a big turnaround for the program. And I think this guy was a big reason, and he could definitely be a big problem for anyone that plays the Raiders. Next pick, we have the Jacksonville Jaguars, who, like I said, in their first pick, the only thing they really have to switch out is Nick Foles. If you even want to, I don't think that is required. I think you can just rely on Gardner Minshew, and I think you can rely on this guy too, and Kenneth Murray. He's a great linebacker. I remember his first game he played at Oklahoma. He was a true freshman, came in, and the game I remember most is when we played Georgia in the playoffs, and he looked lost. I mean, he looked like the biggest idiot on the field, and we later find out that was Mike Stoops' fault. But that was Wellsdale's coach's words reflecting into the players. And this year he leads Oklahoma in tackles. It was definitely Mike Stoops' fault that this guy was not having a good freshman year. Next we have the Philadelphia Eagles, who just a few seasons ago were the Super Bowl champions, and now they're competing hard to win the NFC East. It's kind of sad to watch. Carson Wentz not being the most healthy, and Nick Foles has been gone, and so they don't have too much to rely on besides McCown, which is not the most reliable guy. Here I think they're going to pick up a pretty good receiver out of Clemson. His name's T. Higgins. He was a big problem for Ohio State, and he was a bit of a problem for LSU, but they figured out how to handle him, and that's why they end up winning the game. I think he's a great receiver. I think he knows how to play the field after he catches the ball. We see a lot of times he will catch the ball and almost slant towards the other side of the field, and that gets him a good 10-15 extra yards after the catch. I think it's a great pickup for the Eagles, and I think that if you want someone for Wentz to throw to, this is a really good guy. For the next pick, we have a trade pick. This is the Minnesota Vikings. They got this pick from the Buffalo Bills, and I think they're going to use this pick wisely and pick up a a corner, not a guy to replace Stephon Diggs. I think they're going to use this to pick up a corner from Clemson, the runner-up of the national championship. Here's A.J. Terrell. He was a pretty good corner. We see him getting juked out a lot in the LSU game, but as I've said about those LSU receivers, they knew what they were doing. I mean, they have some real class talent over there. But I think this guy would be great for the Vikings to help out that defense that's already pretty good. The Vikings defense, didn't do too bad against the teams they played. They struggled more in the playoffs than anything, but I think this guy can really help. Next, we have the New England Patriots, who really are at a point right now where they don't know what to do. I think the front office definitely has their heads screwed on straight, but as far as the fans, they don't know where they're going. They lost Tom Brady, so they don't know if they're going to pick up a quarterback here, what they're going to do. Are they going to rely on Jarrett Stidham? But if I was the New England Patriots front office, I would definitely rely on Jarrett Stidham. I think he's a proven quarterback, and instead, I think here you get a defensive player to add to that phenomenal New England defense. This guy's from the Big Ten, and he goes by the name of A.J. Epinesa. As you can see, he has this physique to him of almost a linebacker, but he plays edge. I think he can definitely compete with some of the defensive linemen that are in the NFL that are doing good right now. He has this Khalil Mack vibe to him, and I think he can definitely perform the same as Khalil Mack. And I definitely think he's someone to consider at the spot. For the next pick, we have the New Orleans Saints, who lost to the Vikings in the wild card round, and I wasn't very shocked. I didn't think that the Saints were all too good this year. I think they put too much trust in Drew Brees. I think Teddy Bridgewater was the better quarterback there, but that's another issue. I think right here they're going to get a wide receiver to add to their powerful trio of Ted Ginn Jr., Emmanuel Sanders, and Michael Thomas, and this guy is going to help. His name is Brandon Ayuk. He comes right out of Arizona State, 6 foot, just over 200 pounds. He's pretty average for a college receiver. I think he's definitely going to help give Drew Brees some options to throw to, or Taysom Hill, whoever gets that spot. And I definitely think that he's someone to consider at this spot for Sean Payton and the rest of that Saints front office. Next we have the original pick for the Vikings. I think they're going to use this pick to pick up the receiver to replace Stephon Diggs, and I think this guy might just be a little bit better. A lot of people give this guy probably hate because he's from the Big 12, but I think he's a good receiver. He's from Baylor. We have Denzel Mims. He's a really tall receiver. He was a problem for OU. The first game, when they rematched in the Big 12 championship, Charlie Brewer and the rest of the quarterbacks that played that game did not throw to him that much, so OU didn't really have a problem with him. But whoever gets this guy will definitely be able to throw to him. Back shoulder, anything like that, he can leap. He could definitely outmatch the corners in today's game. Next, we have the third and final pick of the first round for the Miami Dolphins. I think they're going to use this pick to pick up a guy out of Alabama who had a really good season, even though Alabama failed to make it to the playoffs. I think they're going to pick up a safety. His name is Xavier McKinney. He's pretty average for a receiver on demographics like height and weight and things like that. But I think as far as infield play, he's probably one of the best in this class. And I think he's definitely someone to consider here for the Vikings. I think he's a really good pickup there. Next, we have the Seattle Seahawks. They don't have too much to change here. They were almost there this year. Couldn't get past the Packers in the playoffs, and got eliminated in the divisional round. They competed really good against the 49ers. Both times they played them, gave them their first loss and gave them a pretty tough game in the second game they played them. I think here they're going to pick up an edge player, Caleb Von Chason. He's a really, really good edge player. I think he could maybe even switch to maybe like a middle linebacker or something. He can bring the hit, and he's definitely someone that you don't want to watch out for. And if he goes to the NFC West, I would definitely be frightened, and I would definitely wanted to get an offensive line that can hold him. Next, we have the Baltimore Ravens, who ultimately shook the NFL this year. First game, they whoop up on the Dolphins, and we find out the Dolphins aren't that good, but we actually figure out that the Ravens are really good by the wins that they had. And then they lose to the Titans, and it's like, okay, so are you good or what? But Lamar Jackson is a phenomenal quarterback, and this guy's going to add to that. DeAndre Swift from Georgia, 5'8", over 200 pounds. He is an absolute chunk, and he lays a hit on everybody that is in the way. I think this can give them a two-back look with Mark Ingram, DeAndre Swift, and Lamar Jackson, all three of them being really, really fast. But even if this guy got the primary running back job, I think that would be a really good decision. Next, we have the AFC runner-ups and the Tennessee Titans. I think they're going to pick up a guy here to protect Ryan Tannehill. Jedrick Willis Jr. from Alabama. He'd be a great protector, and he can make some holes for Derrick Henry. Next, we have the NFC runner-ups and the Green Bay Packers. Seemed that their main problem this year was they just could not get past the 49ers. And I know that that's going to seem super biased because I am a 49er fan, but that really was their main problem this year. They could beat nearly everyone else. I think right here they're going to get a guy for Aaron Rodgers to throw to. His name is Laviska Shenault. He's from Colorado. He's a big-time receiver. Comes from Colorado. Didn't have that great of a season, but this guy did. He was a real problem for Nebraska when they played him. I think he's a great receiver to pick up here and definitely a target that Aaron Rodgers will need. Next, we have the Super Bowl runner-ups, the NFC champions, the NFC West champions, the San Francisco 49ers. This is their original pick at 31. I think that they really could use this pick to trade, and the reason why I say trade is because after this pick, they don't have another pick till the 5th round, and it's late in the 5th round, so it's almost the 6th. So I think they could trade. There's a few teams that probably would be willing to trade, but if you're not going to trade, pick up a defensive guy here. Get someone like Ross Blacklock out of TCU, who is a big problem for quarterbacks, or get someone else like Trevon Diggs from Alabama. It was a big problem for receivers, cornerbacks, anyone that stepped in his way. But I think you definitely need to pick someone else here if you want to beat this next team, the Kansas City Chiefs. I think depending on what the Kansas City Chiefs do here and what the San Francisco 49ers do in the last pick, we could see a Super Bowl rematch for sure. But I think right here the Kansas City Chiefs are going to get a defensive player. His name is Christian Fulton. He's from the LSU National Championship as well. He was a really good defensive player, and I think he's a good pickup if the Chiefs want to get back to where they want to be. That was the conclusion of the NFL mock draft presented by Pigskin Podcast. I thank you guys for joining. I'm trying to put out some good content. It's pretty hard as I don't have access to a lot of software or computer stuff, but thank you guys for watching and have a good day.